picture that you are a woodsman. That is... Don't touch it. Get out of here. All right. Don't you eyeball me. I'm very graciously inviting you to co-star, so this is your trial run. A treat, that's what they'll need. I'll get you a treat. Kind of rude of me, you know, when you see on TV, when they invite guests onto a show, well, they usually offer them some snacks or some coffee. So here you go. There, that's better. You got yourself a little snack. So I was doing a bit of reading here, and got me to thinking, you know, because of the Christmas season, people are talking about buying a few gifts, and some people get a little stressed, you know, about financial pressures this time of year, or just in general. Maybe you buy something that you shouldn't have. You got to explain it to your wife. Well, I'll tell you what, some things never change. This old fella here is in the same boat. Ottawa, 1890. Now picture this. You leave your wife and your kids and you head off into the frozen wilderness, northern Canada, to work for 6 months. Your only job, your only task, you swing a double-bitted axe 8, 10, 12 hours a day, felling trees and making money. What do you think you get paid for 6 months, minus 20, minus 30? Hard labor. Well, $150.13. Holy smokes. What do they say? Don't spend it all in one place. Well, this gentleman, he almost did just that. Baptiste Fortin, during a 72-hour escapade through the city of Ottawa in 1890. In their own words, blowing her in. That's what they called. When the men came out of the woods, they were blowing her in. They hit town, and it was time to crack the old release valve and let the pressure off. When Baptiste finally arrived home in his hometown in Quebec, after his little escapade, his wife, and this is where it gets real because somebody's already got, so you got to always answer to somebody at some point, was horrified to find that he only had $54.13 left of his entire 6-month winter pay, which they are expected to live on for the rest of the year. Well, naturally, she was curious of where this might have went. You know, go figure, she didn't take the old boy at his word to tell her the truth. So she went to the trouble. Imagine the effort that took place in this. 1890, she handwrites a letter to the lumber company, thinking maybe there's been some sort of mistake, because I'm getting the impression that this guy wasn't just owning up to what he had done. She writes a letter to the lumber company asking, why exactly are we short $96? So the company, well, back in the day, I guess companies were quite helpful. They set to finding out exactly where this money would have went. So I guess the way it worked is they kept ledgers, handwritten ledgers, because a lot of these lumber companies, it was a lumber town, and a lot of the businesses and provisions that you had access to were also managed by said lumber company. So through a little detective work, they drummed her up and they found out where the money went. It doesn't matter how many decades ago, I don't think you're going to be too surprised what he might have spent his money on. Right at the top of the list, 1 bottle of whiskey. Go figure. $1.25. Let that sink in for a sec. 1890, you got, and I'm not talking, I don't think they're talking a little 2.6 here whiskey. It was probably a big old jug. $1.25. First thing he bought. Second thing he bought, 1 briar pipe and a set of earrings. Now, the earrings blew me away. I don't know the culture in 1890 or where this guy is from, but, well, maybe he was tired of not having a bath for 6 months and wanted to fancy himself up a bit. You know, I don't know, to each their own. And man, he had a hunger. He worked up an appetite. A breakfast plate of oysters. Now that, girls, just sounds risky in itself because you may not be too familiar with Canada geographically. Northern Ottawa in 1890 is quite a jaunt away from anywhere where you're going to be getting fresh oysters, and I don't know about refrigeration back in those days. So anyways, filled his belly, drunk by this point, I would assume, because the whiskey was the first thing on the list. Had himself a stuffed plate of oysters. That cost $1.50. And then he was off to the barber. Well, the man was looking shaggy. He gets a haircut and a shampoo, and then pays $2 to have his hair dyed black. What the heck did they dye hair with in 1890? What did they just take? They got a bucket of shoe grease and they lubed them up with it? I don't know. But being that he had maybe had a few cocktails at this point, the next thing in the company ledger on the list, he then had his hair dyed brown because he decided that black did not suit him. Cost another $1.50. Man, this guy's out of control. Now, this is where reality really kicks in. You're loosened up. I think we've probably all been there. You worked a hard job, you've been on a long shift, or it's been a long stretch of time you've been doing a job, and you're in that blowing off steam mode a little bit. He's already loosened up a bit. He's had a big old meal. He's still probably working through that bottle of whiskey. Because keep in mind, this happened all within 72 hours. So he didn't really take a break here. He was a busy boy for 3 days straight. Drinks and tobacco with friends. That's all the ledger said. Drinks and tobacco with friends. Now remember, he worked the entire winter for 6 months to make $150.13. $30 on drinks and tobacco with friends. My God, I'll tell you. Baby Bell, he must have been so popular. So popular. Then the novelty kicks in, of course. He's probably well lubricated at this point, maybe had a nap. One photo, remember 1890, it took a lot of effort to do this thing. One photo and he got 25 copies of it. I don't know, it doesn't say when he got a photo of it, it must have been good. $5. Then a sightseeing tour through horse and buggy. He went on a little trek through the big town, because you got to remember, all this guy's seen is squirrels, pine cones, and spruce trees for the last 6 months. He hits the town horse and buggy style, $7, and gets dropped off in town at a tailor and buys himself a suit for $17. Now there's a little side note here. Real value of the suit was only $7. Somebody saw opportunity of this inebriated gentleman to scoop him for an extra $10. Terrible. Bought himself a pair of red top boots to go with his new suit. Watch and a ring for $3.25. Also, side note, $3.25 for a watch and a ring. Go with his earrings. This guy's looking sharp now. Maybe he thought he'd be better off with his wife when he arrived back home if he was looking clean shaven and spiffy in a suit. I doubt it helped. He returned to the jewelry store to exchange the ring and the watch for 2 plugs of tobacco. Oh, man. Well, the guy's got to sleep. You know, he's probably 2 days into this bender now. He's got to lay his head down somewhere. Advance payment to the boarding house for room and meals. Well, only one meal that he actually ate. Apparently he didn't show up for the other, $5. And then now here's, this is probably where he got in real deep trouble here. His wife writes this letter and receives back this information, asks where the money went. He gave a tip to Marie Christine for sewing a button on for him. $2. I mean, $2 when you only made $150 all winter is big time pay. I wonder what he was trying to get out of old Marie Christine. Well, on to the next here. I mean, this guy, it obviously was a good time. I mean, I just really like to really think and one of our guests left. Now the other guest left. Is the show that bad? I'm going to forge ahead. I think it's good. Now he got into a bit of trouble here, it says. To the organ grinder for damage in knocking over the organ. How do you knock over an organ? If you don't know what an organ is, it's just like a giant piano. How do you knock over such a thing? Anyways, he damaged it. $2 in damage. And then this, this is written in chronological order. So over the 72 hours, things have declined here, right? I guarantee you he's had a few more drinks in between here. He had to pay $1 to the doctor to get stitches in his face after getting into a fight with Xavier Lacasse. I also like that, you know, nowadays we can just shoot each other a WhatsApp message or a YouTube comment, and it's just communications lickety-split. But back then, this was all handwritten in a ledger, and they make effort to detail not what he paid, but even the guy that punched him in the face, Xavier Lacasse. For losing bet, he could wrestle. Well, I don't even pronounce that. For losing a bet, he could wrestle another logger to the ground in the gateway of the hotel. $2. he bet on himself that he could wrestle this other gentleman to the floor in the lobby of the hotel. $2. And this is where the trip wraps up. Hire of a cab to the railway station, $1.50, and a railway ticket to L'Ange Gardien, Quebec, $4. Oh man, I'll tell you. That was probably the longest train ride back home imaginable. Swollen head, dreading to be facing your wife at the farmhouse door when you got there, and you only got $54 left in your pocket. What Xena, his wife, said to Baptiste is, alas, unrecorded. I'll bet you it is unrecorded. I bet that, well, he probably received a bit of a tongue lashing. Yep. But anyways, do times really change? I'm sure we all know somebody that behaves like that still to this day in modern times. They just do it in a little bit different fashion, but the outcome's kind of the same. A little bit of regret, a few stories to tell, and well, to each their own. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next adventure.